I never hate my race, but until recently I didn't know history class was jacked completely. Found my new family with the team going free. My old family doesn't understand me, cause I am so pro-white. No coke, no Sprite, I am rolling with the public, gonna be more white. I saw them twist history right before my very eyes. Insurrection Day, it's in the book and it's all lies. But now I am alive and well to tell it. But will generations down the line be able to sell it? I've always been a thinker on the search for both sides, but they label me an outcast and they cannot tell me why. Guess I'm just a black sheep, white boy who doesn't hesitate to make a lot of fucking noise. I'm the black sheep, white boy, and I wouldn't change a thing if I ever had the choice. Cause the red's the color I bleed. Yes, we all do bleed red. I have to protect my family. So I love my people. Why does affirmative action make them not hire me? Even in the countries where I'm the minority. Is my race just that awesome and no other could compete? Is that what the anti-whites are trying to tell me? Why am I always seen as such a threat? To the point they wanna strip me down till there's nothing left. Old friends from high school, man, I haven't kept one, but I got a new crew and it's where I belong. Cause if you ain't going free, you ain't rolling with me. And there are even anti-whites in my own family, but I am the one who's comfortable with myself. I try to save them from the hate so wildly raising hell. Cause I'm the black sheep, white boy who doesn't hesitate to make a lot of fucking noise. I'm the black sheep, white boy, and I wouldn't change a thing if I ever had the choice. Cause the red's the color I bleed. Yes, we all do bleed red. I have to protect my family. I heard that Scotland is too white, is Nigeria too black? Don't get your panties in a bunch, cause I have the right to ask. See, I'm the black sheep, cause I call it hypocrisy. And the media will give you emotions, but they will not give you honesty. Yeah, you have your feelings, but I have the crime rate. And I'ma shoot to kill if there's a danger my way. So I do not blame the cops, just the ones who are cowards, who hesitate to pull the trigger unless it is one of ours. Cause he's a black sheep, white boy who doesn't hesitate to make a lot of fucking noise. I'm the black sheep, white boy, and I wouldn't change a thing if I ever had the choice. Cause the red's the color I bleed. Yes, we all do bleed red. I have to protect my family. So I love my people to death.
Excellence where there is equality. For every diversity hire, there is a diversity fire. It is not the similarities that make us the same. It is the differences that make us different. The truth is hate to those who hate the truth. Atonement cannot be made for a grievance never committed. There is no Western civilization without Western kind. In a world of collectivism, individualism is suicide. Hollywood isn't history. Hollywood isn't history. Isn't history. Isn't history. Isn't history. Isn't history. Isn't history.
And we are rolling in, going free, ladies and gentlemen. A happy Valentine's Day to every single one of you. And how is everybody doing? Please let me know if everything is working okay, if the mic is fine, the image is beautiful as always. If you're looking at me, then it's beautiful. I promise you that. And you may financially gift over the course of this roll-in on Valentine's Day. I hope everybody has had a good Valentine's Day. Have you reached out to your loved ones? Have you reached out to your mother? Have you reached out to your father? Have you reached out to your significant other? Told them how much they mean to you? You should, because as you will see in the stories that we cover in just a moment, that in the blink of an eye, they can be taken from you. And it is increasingly likely across the West that this can happen to someone that you know and love, that anti-whiteism in the form of anti-white terrorism can be visited upon them and their lives snuffed out. So we are on this Valentine's Day extending our great love to these men and women, boys, girls of the West who have recently been murdered by anti-white terrorists. The problem is anti-whiteism and anti-whites, not a tool that can be used in the process of self-defense. Of course, anti-whiteism would have you believe otherwise. But you can voice your opinion over the course of this roll-in gathering, this roll-in stream, going free, if you would like, with a financial gift. And you can do that at Cash App, which is up and running. You can do that at Entropy, which is up and running. You can do that in a cryptocurrency over at DLive, which is up and running. And at Odyssey as well, with their cryptocurrency, which is up and running. You may also financially gift with cash at Odyssey. And on Cash App, it's both cash and cryptocurrency there as well. You may also just simply tag me over the course of the stream as No White Guilt, No White Guilt. Tag me as No White Guilt. It'll turn orange, and then I'll be able to easily see it, identify it, and then speak to your question or comment. I guess we can start off with, how was your Valentine's Day? And what did you do with your significant other that is not lewd and you are willing to share with us? Things other than lewd, perhaps romantic, perhaps you read some poetry, perhaps. The thing about Valentine's Day or any holiday or person's birthday, when it comes to guys, my advice to you is that do not treat Valentine's Day or her birthday as the big day. That's not really what's going to make a difference. She's going to regrettably be expecting that you're going to do something for her. So make that a something for her day. And then pick a random day here and there to really surprise the one you love with something truly romantic and marvelous. And that, my friends, will be truly appreciated. If you take the same thing that you would have done on Valentine's Day and you do it a month from now, in the middle of the week, whatever it might be, it's going to have infinitely more value to the both of you than doing it on Valentine's Day. The prices for everything, the capitalist raise the prices on everything. The cards are outrageous. I mean, it's a card today is like a gift in itself, the price for a card. And this is not even talking about inflation. It was like that before the corpse in chief got in office. Flowers go through the roof. It's like you're held hostage and you have to do something. People in business, they know that since females dominate the household, that if a female expects something like cards and flowers and what have you, and she doesn't get it, that she's going to raise hell. And it can be in various ways. I mean, it can be silence and causing just this totally hostile environment. And nobody wants to live like that, right? These tantrums that most, not all women, but of course, in my opinion, most, these tantrums they throw as adults. And so people in business, they know that. And it's like when there's a hurricane and people can't get fresh water and suddenly a bottle of water is like $150. That's what they're doing to guys. So keep that in mind when you make your decision about how much you want to go in for on a Valentine's Day. But a big Valentine's Day, happy Valentine's Day to all of you. And let's see, we have Zoe saying over on D Live that Jason is Zoe's Valentine. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that. I am here for you. I am your Valentine. And we have, let's see, what is that? A bunch of rabbits over there on Odyssey. Hello to the rabbit emojis. And just make sure that Entropy is working. Whoa, we're going to get started right now with a very big, very generous financial gift from a real hero champion in service to white well-being. We all know her. Raise your arms with the 07s and raucous emojis for Mrs. Jess Horst, who just financially gifted on this Valentine's Day 50 white well-being dollars. God bless you, dear sister. God bless you, your husband, your colossal family. We love you. Happy Valentine's Day to all of you. That is really wonderful. Thank you. What a surprise to begin. Obviously it's 9 o'clock on the East Coast, and I had a long day, which included a prodigious workout at 2 different gyms. And so I'm maybe running on E. I'm maybe running on E a little bit. Didn't get all the sleep I need as usual last night. I think I might give a tip on Twitter tomorrow about maybe the next time you're at the gym, try out your repetitions at half speed. You won't be able to get the full number. Just make it Jason instructed half speed repetitions. It's going to burn like a beast and you're going to feel it. You're going to feel it for the next couple days. I love it. The great Mrs. Jess Horst, God bless you, sister. 50 U.S. white well-being, saving Western kind and the U.S. and Western civilization dollars. Oh, glorious. Gosh, thank you. I really appreciate it. What about this doctor? Is it Dr. Mammon? What would you like to get into first? Would you like to get into the anti-white terrorist shooter at Michigan State University? Or would you like to get into, and I think there are people shot, I think there are 5 more critically injured. We could get into that first, or do you want to get into the story about the good doctor? I think he was a pediatrician and surgeon, and he had the reputation of being a lifesaver. That's how they, as I understand from one article I peeked at, that's what he was known for. His reputation saves lives. Could you imagine that? Let's see who all is here. And thank you all for celebrating Mrs. Jess Horst, those of you who did, with some 07s and some raucous emojis for this wonderful lady. Oh, we have another big financial gift on this Valentine's Day. We have, I will call you Stefan, financially gifting 50 white well-being dollars as well over on Cash App. Please, raucous emojis, 07s for both of these champions. Stefan financially gifting 50 U.S. white well-being. Let's put down anti-whiteism dollars right to get started here on a roll-in gathering to talk about our people, who have been victimized. And I'm looking over here. God bless the both of you for financially gifting. There's the great Lunder and Cool Papa J Magic. And there's Franklin and Fornal, champion troll slayers, if there ever were any, and multi-talented wizards in numerous ways in service to white well-being. God bless the both of you. Great to see you. And a big happy Valentine's Day to you too, and everybody in the live chat. Lunder says he's doing fantastic. That's great. White Wolf is with us. Great to see you. White Wellbeing Kitchen. Well, there you have it. That's a place I would like to eat. Victorian Time Traveler. Marco is here. The great Slots is with us. Who else is here? Imminent Rain is with the great Imminent Rain is with us, ladies and gentlemen. And the great rocker, singer, musician extraordinaire. And we tweeted this past Sunday, number 2, thanks to the great Slots, is doing this. We retweeted, and I'm actually going to take that and post it across my social media that the great Imminent Rains album is coming, and we are very excited about that. Prometheus 9, the final song, is finished, and it will be shared. And there's Anders is with us. Great to see you, good champ. Greg is here. Tall Kevin is with us. Great to see you, good sir. Always good to see Tall Kevin. Easy to see him when he comes in the room. All right. Artificer is here. Wonderful to see you, brother. Everybody on this great Valentine's Day. What is this? Davy Boyd is here. Thank you for celebrating the two champs, financially gifting right here at the opening. And then there's the great Elaine Sabatino. Wonderful to see you, dear sister. Hyperborean Dream. Thank you for the 07s as well. Zachariah is here. Hello to you. Jay Claxton. So I don't see that anybody had any druthers. Remote control account is here. Euronomics. Could you play RC's new love song? He premiered it today. Oh, really? Well, yes. I mean, I'm going to play Fornull's new piece as well today, because that's totally epic. And I talked too long yesterday. I mean, Sunday, my mouth was just going and going because there was so much to talk about. White Wellbeing Kitchen. I changed my YouTube channel name. I was Joshua Bell. I am actually a chef in IRL. Well, fantastic, man. That's cool. White Wellbeing Kitchen. That is really cool. That's a great name choice. We had, Fernull can tell you too, he's been around. He's been in the trenches. Fernull. I feel like when I look at Fernull, it's like he and I are two guys like World War I era. And we're in the trenches, and it's nasty. And we're like, yeah, like every day we look at each other like, yeah, we're still here. It's still nasty. It's still raining. Still muddy. It's like mustard gas floating around. What do we have here? Oh, wow. The great Yiz the Unifier has showed up. Great to see you, sister, over here on Entropy. She has two $3 financial gifts. God bless her. She just had her great show yesterday. Nothing can stop this lady. She is amazing. She writes, it's late for me, but when I saw the title, I just had to come comment. The story makes me equal amounts of angry and sick. We must end anti-whiteism before it ends us. Keep heart and keep pushing. And then a white heart emoji. God bless you for that. Absolutely. That's the kind of energy she brings to this struggle to recapture our destiny. And that's why she's going to go so far. That's why she's already such a just colossus. She also writes here, also, I invite all of you to tune into my channels at 4 p.m. this Sunday, an hour before the Go Free stream, for an interview I'm doing with the great Luke Mason and his new album. Hope to see y'all there, Kip. Kip indeed, sister, white heart emoji. So this coming Sunday at 4 p.m. Eastern time, make sure you head on over there to Yiz channel, and perhaps we can get a link for her channel up in the live chat would be great. And she's going to be interviewing exactly what I was talking about, Luke Mason, aka Imminent Rain, and his great album is going to be released, and you need to be on pins and needles just waiting for it because it's truly epic. I can tell you that. The first 8 songs have been just out of this world, and we're going to play one every Sunday all the way up into the big release. So then which story is it, Yiz or whoever, that you would like me to dig into first? Because I have them both queued up, and I would like to we'll dive right in. We'll see what they have to say. There's Yiz. There's Franklin. Already has her link up. Amazing. Well done. So Yiz, which story is it that really got you fired up? Was it the first one you were thinking about? was at the gym. I had a good. I am so tired. I got to tell you all. You all probably know this by now. I'm so tired of the New Year resolution people. And if you're one of them, beautiful. Just make it more than stick with it. Just stick with it. But I've seen the craziest things. I kid you not. I go in, and I think it's three times now that I have seen guys who maybe were in shape at one point in their lives, but they're not anymore. And, like it was back in the day, they had the big game in high school or college or whatever it is. And they're in the gym trying to find place on the floor to do Rocky style push-ups, the one-handed Rocky style push-up. What are you thinking? Don't do that. Don't do that. I saw one guy, rotund, sort of orbicular guy, and he was FaceTiming while sitting on a piece of equipment with some lady on the phone. I saw another one, regrettably, it was a young man, maybe 20, 21, 22, 23 range, and he was also orbicular. He was sitting on a piece of equipment watching a cartoon on his phone. I've seen so many strange exercises. And today, the thing that was really vexatious is, this is another thing. If you're going back to the gym because it's your New Year's resolution, don't go in there like you are preparing for the NCAA championship. Or don't go in there like all decked out in like the newest gear, and you got the hood pulled up over your head and your head's like in there deep, and you're gonna, I don't know, get like a super heavy sweat on while you're working out, or I don't know, what are you trying to do? And then you go and you sit on pieces of equipment and just sit there and you sit there and you sit there. And then the other ones that were today, there were some of those, and then there were others who I saw several who went over to pieces of equipment, sat down, and immediately started going through their phone. If you want to look at your phone in between sets, well, more power to you. Keep track of how long it's been in between your sets. But something's really wrong if you go over and sit on the piece of equipment, and before you use it, you begin going through your phone. Go home. Go home, New Year's resolution people. There's no place for you at the gym. We hate you. Feel shame. Get out. Get out. Oh my God. Wellbeing Kitchen says, yeah, the only New Year's resolution I made this year was to read your book, Go Free. Well, brother, do it. And third edition is going to come out later in the year. We'll finish that up this year. And audio book of second edition iteration 2 is going to come out this month toward the end. And Franklin saying, yeah, once you're done with a piece of equipment, move away. Yes, get away from it, so that people who want to actually stay in shape or get into shape or better shape, they can get on it. Time Traveler says he usually does really well with his New Year resolutions. That's awesome, man. Great to have you here. So Yiz says the McRae. So let's go ahead and get over to Anthony McRae, and we're going to get into that. And we can talk about working out, as we go along. But we're going to get into this story and see exactly what happened at Michigan State. 3 students, and I'll start off right away pointing out how irritating I find it that when I search this, and I am as hurt and I'm angry and frustrated with anybody being killed by an anti-white terrorist of any race. So what I'm about to say speaks directly to the fact of how much value is placed on lives in the anti-white West. Here you have 2 white students killed, but on several searches today, each time I didn't have time to proceed with the search to find anything out about the story. But on several different searches today, with different verbiage for the search topic, I was given stories and images of the non-white female who was murdered by this anti-white terrorist. Her death is every bit as bad as the white students. But what do we have being conveyed to us there again? That the white lives have less value than the not. Why wouldn't you put just all three up? Why wouldn't you put all three? It's three. Just have all three photos together. These are the people that were murdered by this anti-white terrorist. But no, just the non-white young lady who lost her life. And it is a terrible shame, every bit as much of a shame and horrific as the white students losing their lives. But we as white people, as Westmen in the West, we have to suffer this further indignity that our lives have so little value to the regime that they're like, oh, some white people as well. But look at the non-white that died. This is all about crafting the story, and it's an important place to begin, because this speaks to the psychological manipulation, the psychological warfare, linguistic warfare, image warfare that is waged against Westmen, which is a word we use to mean white men, women, and children. It's waged against Westmen, and it is the means by which Western civilization has been overthrown. They take events that happen in the real world and they manipulate, massage, ignore, fictionalize events in the real world to make those events conform to the anti-white narrative. So when you understand that that is how actual events in the world are delivered to you, then you can begin to grasp how this is a fictionalized narrative, the anti-white narrative, under which we are or subjected. So 3 students killed, 5 critically wounded in shooting at Michigan State University, authorities say. And I'm reading from CBS at the moment. 3 Michigan State University students were killed and 5 others were critically wounded in a shooting at the university Monday night, authorities said. Now, what's the racial makeup of MSU? Is MSU 90% non-white? Does anybody know? I have some ideas, but why was MSU chosen by this anti-white terrorist? And why am I calling him an anti-white terrorist? Well, I need not have any information on the kinds of things that he was sharing, his opinions on his social media. And there are some claims, there is some evidence out there about him. True or not, please look into it for yourself. I'm not going to speak directly to it or share it because the ear is against the door, that he was indeed anti-white. But there are no murderers, in my opinion, in Western civilization, rapists, thieves, etc., who target a white person for victimization, who do so magnanimously. They all, to one degree or another, are considering the race of their victim when they choose a white victim. In this anti-white narrative, this is the race that has done all the evil in the world. This is the race that has raped their people. This is the race that has used their people. This is the race that has stolen from their people. So to one degree or another, and I would surmise in most cases to a very high degree, anti-whites who choose white victims are considering the race, and in fact might be the overwhelming consideration for the victimization of that particular person. I grew up in Northern Virginia, which over the course of my life, rapidly going from a mostly white environment to mostly non-white environment. I grew up with a lot of non-white kids from the United States and from other parts of the world. And one thing that I found uniform among them that I didn't find at all in the white race was a desire to prevent the victimization of their people. The race that was probably closest to us, who cared maybe least about victimizing their own, that I found in my observation and conversations, was blacks. But they still considered their victims' race more so, in my experiences. So this is with individuals, not with an entire group of people. I can't have a conversation with an entire group of people. They still consider the race of the victim more so than white people. White people didn't care whatsoever if white people were getting victimized. And at the other end of the spectrum, you had like people from India who 100% did not want to see a single person from India being harmed, in my experiences. Again, with individuals, not with the entire Indian subcontinent. And so this character, you could say with any of these crimes, and this is where the subjectivity needs to play a part, that you know the story by which society is functioning. When you hear about an individual, in this case, a non-white individual, but you could also have somebody from one of these, they call them victim groups, but we know them as privileged groups because that's what actually takes place in the world. If they were to go into a predominantly white area and begin murdering people, you would be a fool to not immediately conclude that the race of their victims played a major role in the choice to victimize people. And you better believe that our anti-white oppressors, the anti-white oligarchs, the victimizers, they would do that every single time when it would suit their anti-white narrative. It doesn't matter if a white shooter might go to a place. I mean, look at what happened at which major shooting was it where we just talked about it? Was it Columbine, where the two kids, they went in, and at first, in my recollection, and perhaps I could be wrong, but the media was saying that this was a totally race-motivated attack on the school. And they showed, I don't know how many non-white students died, 3, and then there were like a dozen white kids. They were saying, look, here are their victims. Some white kids got hit too, but they were out there to just kill non-white. So they turned that, even with the numbers. I guarantee you could have a white kid or a psychotic person, and they could have crazy ravings and they could go somewhere with a knife or a machete and start hacking people up. And it could be a predominantly white place, and they could kill 99 white people and 1 non-white person. And the anti-white media is going to bring to you the death of the non-white person. And they're going to imply, if they don't actually outright fabricate, that he was some sort of neo-Nazi or something of this nature. 3 Michigan State University students were killed and 5 others critically wounded in a shooting at the university Monday night, authorities said. The gunman was later found dead in Lansing of a self-inflicted gunshot wound, police said. One of the scary things about this is that while the anti-white terrorist was still on the loose, the police and the media were not giving people a description. Now, if they did somewhere else, and I didn't see it, and other people didn't see it, then so be it. But it appears that they were saying that he was like a middle-aged man. Just be on the lookout for a middle-aged man. And of course, as white people, we know what that means. We hear all the time from the anti-white narrative about how this non-white group or that non-white group have to live this totally different experience where they're just hunted all the time by white people. White people are just like, they're getting ready for heading out to the golf course. And they're like, how am I going to harm some non-white people today on my way to the golf course? It's crazy. None of that's real. But remember how the subconscious mind can be manipulated, how fiction can be used to manipulate us. The reality is that white people have to live with the knowledge that when they don't tell you the race of the murderer, that it's absolutely a non-white person. When the media is anti-white media, the regime's media unsure, they're absolutely going to tell you it's a white person. And then obviously, if they know, then you'll never hear the end of it, at least for 6 months. And then it will recur forever for the rest of your life. You'll have to hear about it. So how do you protect yourself? Law enforcement, I mean, really think about these things. Don't just say, oh, that's not fair. You know, law enforcement is making these decisions that could cost you or someone you love your life, their lives. That speaks to something much deeper than the rules, the laws, the codes, the norms. And it's what we talk about here. It's the anti-white moral imperative, which can only be defeated by a white well-being moral imperative that we give you with the concepts we teach in the Go Free method of argumentation. So they're actually willing, delighted indeed, to not tell you the description that they have of a terrorist because it contradicts the anti-white narrative. So why wouldn't they tell you? It contradicts the anti-white narrative. What does the anti-white narrative say about non-whites in general, but in this case, since he's black, blacks in particular? They angelize them, a term I made up. They can do no wrong. This is applied to all non-whites. Can do no wrong in the anti-white narrative. If they ever do wrong, it's because white people made them do it, or because white people created the conditions that caused them to go wrong. They have no agency whatsoever, apparently. And so anti-whites who are in the establishment media, and it goes far deeper than just the person who might own it, the particular platform. It's throughout the entity. They immediately say to themselves, programmed like automatons with a very specific set of ideas that, given the same or similar scenarios, react in the exact same predetermined way of the ideology. So in this case, it's what? He's black? That doesn't fit the anti-white narrative. So it's a middle-aged man. You got to watch out for that. Well, is he white? Is he American Indian? Is he Hispanic? Is he an alien? What is he? He's a middle-aged man. Well, and now today you have to wonder, is this a middle-aged man who is identifying as a man but is a biological female? What are we talking about here? Well, it's a middle-aged man. So you might get killed. You can't protect yourself. You can't protect somebody else in the community when you see somebody who fits the description and you pick up the phone and you say, wait, I see a middle-aged black man dressed in the same jacket and the same everything info you gave. Come and get him before he kills anybody else. Well, that person wouldn't be able to save anybody. But it doesn't matter, because your death is the price that has to be paid on the altar of anti-whiteism, so that anti-whites can victimize white people from here to the end of time. Law enforcement officials at the university identified the shooter as Anthony Dwayne McRae, a 43-year-old man with no obvious affiliation to the school. McRae, now notice the tenor of this article too, right at the beginning, that this is not dramatized. This is not histrionic. They're not right. They're not getting at your feelings like they do if this were a white shooter. Very different from the way it's written when it's a white shooter. McRae was neither a current nor former student or faculty member at Michigan State, said Chris Rosman, the university's interim deputy chief of police and public safety. This suspect was previously sentenced to 12 months probation on a weapons charge, according to the Michigan Department of Corrections. That didn't turn off my mic, did it? Okay, good. Arrest records show, so he was another one of these incipient astronauts, neurosurgeons, that we have to give up our slots at university for, even though he wasn't affiliated with this university, so that he can have the slot and his mind won't be wasted and he can go on to have the six-figure salary. Arrest records show he was convicted and ultimately sentenced in November 2019 for possessing a loaded firearm inside of a vehicle, which is illegal in Michigan without concealed carry license. He was discharged in May 21. So it sounds like he was handled with kid gloves for carrying a loaded firearm in an automobile, which in most states, or in many states, is against the law. And my guess is that he did not tell the police officer, but let's read on and see if they say anything about that, because that is a very big crime. If a police officer comes up to your automobile, even when you have concealed carry, you should, and I think maybe in some states, immediately say, I'm carrying a firearm, I have a concealed carry permit. But if a police officer pulls you over and then finds a loaded firearm on you, you could have killed him or her with it. That's a serious crime, and looks like he got a slap on the wrist. Authorities say McRae was contacted in 2019 by police who found a handgun that was legally registered to him during a subsequent search and investigation. Prosecutor's office said in a statement, because he did not have a legally required concealed carry permit, McRae was first charged with carrying a concealed weapon, which is a felony punishable by up to 5 years in prison, the prosecutor said. Why didn't he get 5 years? In the anti-white narrative, black males are the most oppressed, the most hounded, the most innocent, the biggest hearted, and they can't do any wrong in the anti-white narrative. And there are some that are like that, by the way. There are some wonderful people out there. But I'm just talking about the anti-white narrative in general. And it doesn't matter how good or bad they are, they're always good, according to the anti-white narrative, which should really piss off, I imagine, really pisses off good black people. But neither here nor there, I guess, for this conversation. But we're told that they're always just like horribly put upon. They go to the court and it's going to be so much worse for them. The courts are all set against them. Looks like he's getting off pretty easy here. I've seen videos over the years of white people who didn't tell the police officer that came to the car that they had a loaded firearm on them, and the cops beat the living hell out of them for it. That's never on the news. That's never made into videos. It's not we're not reminded of it endlessly. He pleaded guilty to a second charge for possession of a loaded firearm inside a motor vehicle in October. What? I'm sorry, what? A second charge? He pleaded guilty to a second charge? He did the same thing in his motor vehicle in October of that year and received his probation sentence the next month, according to the office's statement. So is this saying here that he did this twice? Let's move on. Officials identified 2 of the 3 victims. So it's just like, hey, just the facts, ma'am. This is just Joe Friday. Just the facts, ma'am. Okay, so, and here's the other thing. On TV, perhaps you're some of those out there. I know Katie was telling me as well. They're telling folks on television that they're drumming up mercy and feelings for this McRae. He had gone bad, you see, after his mother died. He's got no agency. After his mother died, he just, of course, the normal thing to do is to randomly go shoot up a predominantly white school. That's normally what you do when your mother dies. So sympathy for McRae, not for the victims. Isn't that something? That's the anti-white narrative we live in. Now, if we here were like everybody else in the white sympathetic sphere, we would think that we made a point by pointing out the dichotomy, the hypocrisy, the double standard. That's not the point. We go further than that. We have to change the world we live in. And the people who come here are the people who want to engage in that kind of activity. In a statement, University Police said Brian Frazier, a sophomore at MSU, originally from, was that Grosse Pointe, Michigan, and Alexandria Verner, were among students killed. Now, I don't see did I just miss the Ariel? News of mass shooting prompted, or maybe did she not die immediately? News of the mass shooting prompted an outpouring of support online for the victims, their family, and the rest of the Michigan State community on Tuesday. Numerous colleges, you know what I would like to know that does, again, is not going to be touched upon here. And let me just one step back really quickly. They are drumming up sympathy for McRae. What do I teach you in Go Free? Miss pretexts, moralize, right? What are the rest of them? Intellectualize, sentimentalize. So these are how they create their pretext. If you were studying Go Free, you would make perfect sense to you. I see what they're doing. And that means a lot more to you than just saying, oh, there's a double standard. Look at the double standard. Oh, God, there they go again at it. You all know these types. A lot of these types, so many good people are boomers. So many good ones. But then there are some other boomers that are just like, whoa, that's all you ever come up with? And then you have people that are like spiritually boomers. They could be 20. How does this happen? How does this happen? Like spiritually, they're boomers. They're gonna be like, what's your double standard? I'm done thinking about it. Gosh. News of the mass shooting prompted an outpouring of support online for the victims, their families, the rest of Michigan State, numerous colleges. Oh, so where were the injuries on these students? I'm asking this because I'd be willing to bet if McRae walked into this university and then fired several rounds, like center mass, on the white young man and center mass on that pretty white young woman, and then shot the pretty young black girl in the leg, that would kind of like tell us a little bit about his motivations, wouldn't it? I remember there was a professional football player who was many years ago. He was at home in his colossal mansion, and some also black people, but these criminals broke into his mansion while he was there, and they were armed and they wanted to rob him. And he decided he was going to maybe have a fight with them or maybe make him hot chocolate or whatever it was. But he moved too quickly. And so they didn't want to kill him. So they shot him in the leg. This is called Hollywood physics. You can't shoot people anywhere and everything's okay. That happens in Hollywood. You get those ideas from watching TV and movies. It's why people do all kind of ignorant stuff that in the real world, and they end up dying or they break their head open or whatever, because they think Hollywood physics is the real world. So they shoot him in the leg. They're like, now I'll leave. Oh, except you hit the femoral artery and he's dead in a minute and a half. And when the bullet goes through, it's not a nice little line that goes through the meat. Like, there's nowhere in the body that you can shoot and it's just like, Right? It happens all the time. They're just like, oh, he got me. I'm winged. He winged me. And then they get like a bandage around it and they're like good the next day. They're playing tennis. That's Hollywood physics. In the real world, the bullet goes through, it creates a vacuum. It eats up nerves, muscle, tissue, sinew. it all, right? And then bacteria gets everywhere and starts immediately spreading like gangbusters, okay? So they shot him in the leg and he died. Of course he died. Maybe McRae shot this young lady in the leg because he didn't want to kill her. He just wanted her out of the way. I don't know. I doubt we'll ever know. And you know what? We probably would not know if that's exactly what he did. But then, of course, a bullet wound to the leg will kill you. Or maybe the black people who are with the white people are collaborators and they have to go too. Maybe this was the thinking. Nothing being said here. This is one of the most infuriating things about this incident, about this terror attack at this MSU. No hue and cry. And of course, we can lament that. We should be furious about that. But the fury should immediately be vectored into constructive work for white well-being. Talking about this case, talking about this terror attack, the way I'm talking about it with your friends, family, and strangers, that will change the world. Using the verbiage I'm using, talking about the anti-white narrative, that will change the world we live in. Not juvenile, low IQ people who want to go out there and feel like, well, today they can use racial epithets because this guy did this. No. Obviously not going to do anything for the recapture of our destiny. Others sitting around wanting to just say that it's a double standard and make a disgusted sound or face. It won't do anything. You've got to use this to exercise the lexicon of Go Free and spread it to your friends and family. We're sending our love and support to our friends, family, members, and the community at Michigan State U. The university wrote in a tweet, "Our hearts are broken and we grieve with you today." I'll see what you all are saying in the live chat. If you have anything to say, you maybe know some other information about this. Police have not released the injured students' identities, and I don't know. I haven't seen anywhere else. Perhaps you do. Whether or not the injured students are maybe on the precipice. Are they critical condition? Are they about to die? Or are their injuries not related to a firearm, but maybe in the process of fleeing? Michigan State Police initially confirmed the death toll on Monday night, announcing that 5 people were hospitalized with injuries and nothing that all were in critical condition. 4 of the 5 students transported to Sparrow Hospital in Lansing underwent surgeries for their injuries overnight. A hospital representative said the 5th student was immediately admitted to the medical center's critical care unit, according to the representative. Later on Tuesday, Dr. Denny Martin, the interim president and chief marketing officer at Sparrow Hospital, said one of the students was alert and interacting with members of the care team in an update shared with CBS News. All 5 remain in critical condition. Police, and this is 2-hour-old article. Police located McRae's body in the city of Lansing at around 11:30 p.m. Monday, Rosman said, thanking a caller whose tip led authorities to the suspect. He was found with a note in his pocket that indicated a threat to 2 schools in Ewing Township, New Jersey, officials said. The possible threat prompted officials to close school on Tuesday. McRae's body was found roughly 3 hours after police received the first report of shots fired inside Berkey Hall, an academic building on the MSU campus. At around 8:30, Rosman said officers arrived at the scene within minutes and encountered several students who were injured inside the building. Now, what would have happened had one or more of the students been armed? Maybe none of these people would have died. Maybe nobody wouldn't have been shot. So part of the reason why people were able to be murdered here at MSU was because none of the students there were practicing the right to self-defense. Maybe the university prohibits it. And then the university has blood on its hands as a consequence. We can confirm that 2 of the deceased were in Berkey Hall, as well as some of the victims. While officers were there, MSU police received another round of calls reporting a second shooting inside the MSU Union building nearby, where authorities then found the third victim, according to Rosman. There is, quote, "There is no longer a threat on campus," Rosman said at a previous news conference on Monday. An earlier shelter-in-place order issued by police for the East Lansing campus was lifted. "It's truly been a nightmare we're living tonight," he said. Let me see what you all are saying. Mind over magic. Magnum Force, I don't know what that is. 50 years ago, there was a shooting at my little sister's school. She wasn't there because she was skipping class. Wow, Victorian time traveler. My God, when was that? Mind over magic is saying, don't forget to look at Leroy's video. All right. Yiz is heading off to dreamland. She will dream of pristine lands. Angela's here. She says, facts, Jason. Thank you so much and great to see you. Remote control account is here. Remember, please tag me if you have a comment for me. Elaine Sabatino saying, this is horrible. She's got a crying emoji face and a rose. Yeah, it is. What we do here is that when we hear about these sorts of things, because white well-being is focused on us, centering us, when we hear about members of our greater family dying, we feel pain for that life lost. We focus on them. We focus on what their lives could have been. What was this young man and this young woman? What were they going to go on to be? Of those who are wounded, how many of those are part of our greater family, and how are their lives now ruined? How are they incapacitated? Are they paralyzed? Or will they never? The odds that they'll ever be right again, I mean, psychologically is zil, but physically maybe not even anywhere close to right ever again. What will they have to live through and with? And you think of all of their family members. How many lives would these 2 of our brother and sister, would they have touched in their lives? The families that they might have had, what might have come of those unions? It's an opportunity cost. And so we mourn for them today. And then, because we are moral people, now that we have said our piece about our family members, we say we mourn also for the non-white students who lost their lives to the hands of this anti-white terrorist as well. And we mourn for their families. We think of them as well. But this is where we always have to, we always have to put our thought when it comes to these events. And when your thought is there, the thoughts that come there from will be moral thoughts that our brothers and sisters in their millions will be able to hear. When you are centering another group, your thoughts are going to be in an immoral, ugly place, that when you articulate those thoughts, you take on the character and the history of people expressing those thoughts in entertainment media, which is perceived as reality, in the minds of our brothers and sisters. And they will see you then as those monsters. And your concern for these brothers and sisters of ours and the loss of their lives and the ruination of their families becomes totally irrelevant to them. Your complaint becomes moot. That's why we have to center us and always be moral. Our understanding is that the suspect was confronted by law enforcement, Rosman said. WWJ Radio in Detroit reported that the suspect lives in Lansing, and investigators, including MSP bomb squad members, were at his home overnight, some 2 miles from where the police confronted him. So they knew that this guy was a problem. What exactly did law enforcement find out about him when he was convicted of having a loaded firearm illegally concealed and in his automobile? What exactly did they find out about him at that time? Why weren't our red flag laws or the equivalent thereof available to prosecutors in Michigan? And if so, why weren't they used on this guy? Why weren't they used on him to take away his right to self-defense as they are being and proposed to be used on white people to take away their right to self-defense? When anyone says, I think that they're unhinged, I think they might, where was the FBI that seems to, oh, I know, they're really focused on white people. They're really focused on people who worship Jesus Christ right now and redefining them as white supremacist Nazis. That's what the FBI was doing, because they're all bastards. That's what they were doing, I guess. How many times do we have to have scenarios like this where you have all of these proposed laws that are clearly written in a way, and then they go into law, that are clearly written in a way to inhibit, undermine, deter a person from being able to acquire, own, and use tools to self-defense? And in the act of self-defense itself, and in the totality of writing the bills and then passing them into law, they are, what are they wrapped up in? And this is why I say anti-whiteism is what we have to defeat every time. They're always wrapped up in some verbiage of retributive justice against the white race. And there's no arguing against that morality, that anti-white moral imperative within the anti-white narrative. So those things get passed. Well, we see increasingly clearly that those things are only for white people. They're only to take the right to self-defense away from white people, because they're not going out and taking the right to self-defense away from all of these other folks that we see. How many gang shootings do there have to be? Why are the police not showing up? Why didn't FBI or somebody else, the police officers in Michigan, go to this guy's home and say, you're not right, you're not stable, we're taking the gun away? They let him have it, and then they knew immediately who he was, it sounds like. Go and wait at his house for him? How did they know that? A White House official told CBS News Tuesday that Biden had been briefed on the shooting. Well, this is so dumb. This is so dumb. This is a form of theater, that this, within the anti-white narrative, this event is an event demonstrating why we need to have our right to self-defense taken from us. And it's so significant that the president of the country himself needs to know about it. I mean, does the governor, would the governor even need to know? I mean, if we were functioning in a normal society, would they need to immediately get on the phone with the governor? But no, the president of the United States on planet Earth needs to know, because your right to self-defense has to be taken away. Spoke to the Michigan governor and sideline torturer Gretchen Whitmer every time she speaks. Whitmer referenced her conversation with Biden in remarks at Tuesday morning's news conference. We mourn for the loss of beautiful souls today and pray for those to continue to fight for their lives, governor said. Whitmer acknowledging that February 14 marks the 5th anniversary of the mass shooting. So what are they going to do now? At the high school in Parkland, Florida, the heels of the massacre, just, what is it now? Lunar. Okay. So this is all you need to lose your right to self-defense, because we anti-whites have created a environment where psychopathic people roam the streets because of the two big deinstitutionalized movements in the United States to get crazy people out of crazy hospitals. You can look into it for yourself. Perhaps I'm wrong. But they had those big movements, and now you have people who are on drugs to resolve their psychoses and neuroses. And of course, you can trust Big Pharma, as we just heard from James O'Keefe doing the undercover exercise on the director for Pfizer. You can trust Big Pharma for sure. These people are wandering the streets. You have them animated with ideas, as we talk about here, that are radically anti-white. And those anti-white ideas about how they're oppressed, they can do no wrong, and they should be millionaires, and they would be if it wasn't for white people. And then you have white people dehumanized, and then you have anti-white terror attacks, and you have white people who are rootless automatons, self-hating automatons, don't have a people, don't have a future. You have, and many of these are the whites who do this sort of thing. They're rootless, hated for being white, hated for being male, can't escape their identity. And people like me and you all are prevented from speaking to them, we are stopped by anti-whites from speaking to the white race and telling them that no, the white race is epic. The white race is wonderful, and you are wonderful. You have something very special inside of you. If you are a white man or woman, boy or girl, that doesn't mean there's not, of course, anything that's not special in non-white people. But we can speak in love to our people. They won't let that happen because they want the white race to be this way. And then you have white males descend into the horrors of self-hate, and white girls are taught to hate them and to think they're pathetic, and to think that nothing good will come from them, and that they're always out for evil. And then in massive numbers, these white males are committing suicide, skyrocketing. Nothing said, because that's a good thing in anti-white America, anti-white Great Britain, anti-white Germany. It's a good thing that that's happening. Every now and again, they decide not to turn the gun on themselves. So they create this environment, and then they say, well, the only way to remedy this is to get rid of your right to self-defense, which, of course, criminals have never obeyed the laws, which is what makes them criminal. As a representative of Oxford, Michigan, I cannot believe I am here 15 months later doing this again. And so this is Representative Slockton. This is going to be like, let's make the rounds about how self-defense is horrible. MSU President Woodruff said at one of the police news conferences that, quote, we will take 2 days where we will move to an emergency operation to give ourselves time to think and breathe and be together. To our faculty and staff, we will similarly provide to all of you the next 2 days to think and grieve and come together. And the Spartan community, this family, will come back together. Well, probably the first thing they'll do is get rid of the identifier Spartan, because that's white. White erasure by anti-white terrorists with a firearm, and then white erasure at the university's name and history of white people in the state. Looks like we just got a diamond over there of cryptocurrency on D Live. And I want to thank, actually, that's a Spartan. over there for the Diamond of Cryptocurrency. Thank you so much. It says, it's with a question. It comes, this Diamond of Cryptocurrency comes with a question, which I think maybe I'll answer right after I see if anybody else has anything to say about this story that they would like to share, an insight that they have. Spartan asking what I think of NJP and Patriot Front. So you must be new, but welcome, and I will share that in just a moment. We also have over here some financial gifts, which I will go to first before we check out the live chat. A big happy Valentine's Day to everybody who is here today. Did anybody whisper sweet nothings into your ear? Tall Kevin, financially gifting $10. God bless you, brother. Wonderful to see you. Always wonderful to see Tall Kevin. He says, keep up the great work. Happy Valentine's Day, everyone. Indeed. Happy Valentine's Day. Thank you, Kevin. Happy Valentine's Day to you and yours, sir. We have the great White Wolf. We're getting out the raucous emojis, 07s. Maybe some like heart emojis since it's Valentine's Day for White Wolf. 25 white well-being dollars from White Wolf. And writing with those 25 white well-being dollars for white healing. Oh, how apropos. Very well written for white healing. Little white heart emoji, red heart emoji, and then a little fire emoji. Thank you so much. Very apropos for white healing. 25 white healing dollars. Isn't that beautiful? We've got beautiful people over here in service to white well-being, changing the world, actually changing the world and showing it all the time. People in their lives, changing the world, changing major media companies, changing the pictures they use because of bumping up against us. God bless you, White Wolf. $25. We have Dan D. Westman with a very cool name, financially gifting $3. With Go Free, can we say systemic anti-whiteism? Yes. I mean, technically so. You can also say pervasive if you want to get away from the word systemic. But technically, yes, you could say systemic. And then he goes on to say, when describing the systems of our oppressors, or is the word systemic tainted by its association with the R word, the anti-white narrative? And you're speaking directly to the problem or potential problem with the word systemic in people's minds. We don't want to invoke what they already believe about the world. So that's why we don't flip the script, which is what everybody else does. They stay inside the anti-white narrative, they flip the script. Black people say Black Lives Matter, then they say, well, we can say White Lives Matter. Okay. Well, what that does is it reminds everybody about Black lives. It seems childish to the average person, and then it makes them think, it evokes all this fiction, the stories, etc., of Black people being wrongly put upon, massacred, beaten, hanged, burned, everything else. And then they think to themselves, many white people will think to some degree or another, that's very insensitive of them, even if they agree that white lives do matter. So pervasive might be, if you want to just make sure, it's not a strong association. We would have to, or it's not a super strong association, systemic. We would have to do a lot more sort of investigation. But if you want to be really careful, pervasive anti-whiteism would be the way to go. Thanks for that question. That's something that will help a lot of people because you asked it. The great Slotz is here, our great champion. Great to see you, good brother. $3 white well-being financial gift. He says, white victim erasing. Ooh, I like it. Accomplice hush crime criminality commits the injury twice against the victims of anti-whiteism. Yes, very, very well put, brother. This is another victimizing, what Slotz is saying. What they're doing with the news is another victimizing. So, of the literal shot dead and maimed white victims. It's downplaying them, upplaying the sentimental excuses for the anti-white terrorist murderer. And on my investigations, instead of constantly coming across like the 3 people who were shot dead, the pictures of the 3 people, it was almost completely the young non-white girl, which is also terrible that she was shot and died. But what's the deal with, I mean, if aliens came down, they would say, what the heck? So very well. Thank you, Slots, for that. Dandy Westman back again with another $3 white well-being dollar financial gift. These are the best dollars on planet Earth. They come from working class people, and every single penny means the world. Because when you're working for your money, every bit of it is sweat, is blood, is time that you can't get back. And when you put it to something that you care about, that's very actually meaningful. This isn't like a frivolous gift that you're giving. It's not like, or like you're buying a pack of cigarettes or something. This is very meaningful, so I deeply appreciate it. 3 white well-being dollars from Dandy Westman says, when pointing out specific examples of anti-white victimization or bullying to vagues that we're trying to help go free, how do you respond to someone who deflects by saying all hate is wrong? You agree that, or at least what I've done, is that all hate is wrong. And so it's now time that we start including the condemnation of anti-whiteism. Do you have a problem with including the condemnation of anti-whiteism? You would condemn this anti-white slur racism. You would condemn hating people with this anti-white slur racism. So do you have a problem then with condemning hatred of white people by saying you condemn anti-whiteism? Because if you do, that makes you anti-white. Yeah, it's a false equivalency strategy that anti-whites implement all the time. They've been taught this by entertainment. They watch the anti-white characters on their movies, TV shows, books that they read, and then the character will say, well, all hate is wrong. And that then silences the other characters who might have been wanting to point out that, hey, what about white people? So yeah, it's a really disgusting, evasive tactic that anti-whites will employ. They'll talk from dawn till dusk about white people hating non-white people. Then when you bring up, hey, look at this, you can't escape it. It's patently obvious. You know, like you might have an example where it's a non-white anti-white who is saying kill white babies. You know, there are videos like this. And you could say, look at this. And then instead of agreeing with you that, oh my God, anti-whiteism is hellish, then they try to evade it and say, oh no, all hate is wrong. So you can really go after them on the double standard there. And then you label them with anti-white if they won't be as vociferously opposed to anti-whiteism as they will claim and will demonstrate that they are opposed to this anti-white slur racism. Another great question by Dandy Westman. I'm going to give you a salute, man, because that's going to help people that hear my response to this, that otherwise they wouldn't know. They're coming upon the same thing that you are, and they're just not asking, hey, how do I handle this? What do I do in this scenario? Now they got the answer because you jumped in there and you were willing to ask the question. Feel no shame. We're learning. You know, when somebody comes into the classroom for the first time and they don't know anything about the subject that's being taught, yeah, that makes perfect sense. They're now here to start learning. So when you're in the process of learning, somebody who is clearly demonstrating the desire to grow, it should be applauded. So well done. I really appreciate that. Thank you very much. That looks like it's it on Entropy. Let me check out Cash App, and then I will look at the live chat, and I'll look back over here at this question that came with the diamond. Oh boy. 07s, please, everybody. 07s on this Valentine's Day. Another 50 white well-being dollar financial gift. This one from Cool Papa J Magic. God bless you, Cool Papa J Magic. 50 let's defeat anti-whiteism dollars. Please, raucous emojis, red and white heart emojis, if you can find them in there for Valentine's Day, for Cool Papa J Magic. 50 white well-being dollars. He says here, the Save Our White Babies Fund. That's what they are. 50 Save Our White Baby dollars. God bless you, man. What a champ. On this Valentine's Day, that is glorious. And for that, for white babies, for white children, thank you so much. In the name of white babies, white children. That's beautiful. All right, let's see what we have here. Wellbeing Kitchen says, oh, no, let's see. That looks like that was from earlier. So the school is nearly 70% white, according to what some are saying here. Nearly 70% white. That seems like targeting to me, because if you know anything about Michigan, there are plenty places you can go to find no white people. So all the evidence you need that this was targeting of the white race. And you know, if this were reverse, if a white shooter went to a school that was nearly 70% non-white, it would be 100% certainty that he was there because he was a neo-Nazi come to kill off non-white people. They wouldn't be saying, well, was he crazy? Well, was he? Of course he's crazy. Of course, you're nuts to do something like this. But that's what they'll let this guy off the hook. He just kind of lost it. McRae kind of lost it when his mommy died. How would you like it if your mommy died? I mean, that's what they're doing now. All right. Thank you all for celebrating Franklin with the swashbuckling flags. Hero. Darth Biden is with us. Neanderthal Dogma. Hello and welcome. James O'Keefe was fired from his CEO position by the board of directors, says Mind Over Magic. Was he fired or was he just put on paid leave? Is he actually fired? Is Machiavelli a sucks here? Mind Over Magic needs to be more people like you and Charlie speaking out against anti-white nonsense. Franklin had an excellent suggestion for a soundboard. Well, I'll have to find out what that was from Franklin. Thank you very much. Roger, hello to you. And Time Traveler says it was in December 2017. The guy killed his girlfriend. She was cheating on him. That was at the school that his sister went to, and a guy came to the school with a firearm. Terrible. God, thank God she wasn't there. Kingdom of Vinland is here. Great to see you, brother. Do you agree that making schools gun-free zones makes them more vulnerable to anti-white terrorist attacks? 100%. 100%. That's why psychotic people with firearms go to schools and movie theaters where they don't allow firearms. That's where they go, places where people can't defend themselves. Even when they've decided, even when like a crazy person has decided that they want to go and maybe have death by cop or go kill a bunch of people and die in the process of it. Even when they made that decision, the steps before their death is immensely important to them, or they would just kill themselves on the spot. So they're taking their life, even though they plan on killing themselves or dying in this process. They are still valuing their life in the interim until they get to that end. So, and then normal criminals, obviously they value their life all the time. They don't want to die. So if they they wanted to die, they wouldn't be trying to rob or rape you or whatever. So yeah, they go look for easy targets. And schools where you're not allowed to have a firearm, you're not allowed to defend yourself, you're not allowed to practice the right to self-defense. And now I understand that there are, I think, some states that allow teachers, is this right, to have a firearm on them. And then we've had, I think we didn't we have some news about a school or more where the teacher or administrator with a firearm was able to prevent something from going sideways. But yeah, it doesn't help at all. It makes those places vulnerable, because what can the adults do? A firearm, the beauty of a firearm is that it is the great equalizer. God made man, Colt made them equal. So firearm is a great equalizer. You could be a little old lady, 100 pounds, and the Jolly Green Giant could come to take you out, and you got a firearm and you'll win. And if he has a firearm, guess what? He doesn't have an advantage on you. You all are now even. So it's an amazing thing. And the effort to take away your right, to take away a firearm is to take away your right to self-defense. And I have banged my head up against the wall trying to get Republicans to use my verbiage, to try to get the NRA to use my verbiage, to try to get people in the white sympathetic sphere to use my verbiage about this. But they are just so benighted. Keep talking about gun rights. They'll make the argument that, look at the gun. It doesn't get up off the table to go rob the bank unless somebody picks it up. Okay. Right. So it's inanimate. Why are you talking about gun rights then, dipshit? Oh, God. There has to be like a divine being or beings that are looking at me and they're just like, oh, God, look, he's still putting up with this shit. Oh, we feel for you, Jason. Don't forget, Jason, they're always usually trying to angelize women too. They absolutely, says White Wellbeing Kitchen, like believe all women, 100%. They do that for women. Absolutely. In order to victimize the white race as a whole, by way of victimizing white males and the family structure that used to exist in the white race, destroyed by anti-whiteism. All right. Archangel is here. Great to see you. Cool Papa J Magic coming in with a cool 50. A cool $50. I really appreciate it. Pace is here. Hello and welcome. Stephanie Love is here. Perfect for Valentine's Day with a name like Stephanie Love. Hello to you as well. Hyperborean Dream says, do you get your website contacts? You mean if you email me there? I do. The only problem is that you are more likely to be lost in the messages that come from the site because there's infinite amount of spam. Infinite amount. So I do get messages from folks I respond who write me there when I get to see their messages. So if you write me there and you haven't gotten a message to me, maybe copy it, paste it into a new message, send it again. Don't like spam me like with, unless you have like, I know somebody who's about to kill you. Yeah, then go ahead. Fill my inbox up. Fill it with messages from you. But otherwise, yeah, just like keep sending it so that it will eventually stick out amid all the garbage. White Wellbeing Kitchen saying, this reminds me a little of the Waukesha terrorist attack and the guy almost got off with because he was a black man. Bro, precisely. Precisely. And so we should be calling this guy Technically, the whole sphere should. I said that about Waukesha, and then they did, and then nobody gave us credit. The people started using it that hate me and that hate us. So, and calling that guy anti-white terrorist. Call this guy an anti-white terrorist. This was an anti-white terroristic attack. He chose a school that was almost 70% white in a state where you can find populations that are 100% non-white. Give me a break. Oh, I saw somebody wrote Jason. And you got to have to tag me if you got something to say to me. I see Tim is here. Great to see you. All right. Let me spin back around here. And so the question was, well, as Canadian, yeah, I support the Second Amendment. I wish we had the Second Amendment here in Canada, but they would never allow it. White Wellbeing Kitchen says, yeah, it's such a shame. It's such a shame. And the reason why, and I've talked about this before, again, it's the kind of thing that we need to be using in our conversations. Be brilliant, use these things. That anti-whites aren't doing to us in Canada. Anti-whites are doing to us in Great Britain. Anti-whites aren't doing to us in Australia what they really want to do, because the United States still has the right to self-defense. You might say, well, how does that make sense? Because if in Canada, for example, the anti-whites decided, well, we've had it with white people who aren't anti-white enough, we're going to round them up, we're going to imprison them, maybe euthanize a bunch, whatever. Every American gun owner, every white American gun owner would gird up for war with the United States and would immediately begin pushing for politicians in a very violent and a very here and now, make it happen kind of a way. We're not going to see ourselves rounded up in America the way we're getting rounded up in Canada. So as much tyranny as there is in our once great country of Canada and Great Britain and etc., it would be infinitely worse if America didn't have the right to self-defense. It would truly be over. You saw the same phenomenon happen in Germany when in Russia, anti-whites decided they were going to start killing off millions of white people. And the German population said, whoa, we don't want any of that here. And then they voted in a very radical party. Anti-whites are not going to allow those conditions to ever exist again. They're going to go about the defeat of Western kind in a very different way. The victimization of Western kind in a very different way. All right. Who here, who in the show, who's in the live chat now, was hit on today? I know a young lady who was hit on today. I wonder if she'll pipe up and say it was her. Hit on during Valentine's Day. We're going to get into this terrible story here in just a moment about this pediatrician surgeon known as a lifesaver in this hospital. And what an absolute horrific anti-white terror attack. We need to send our love to his family. We need to pray, just as we need to do for the families who are suffering, grieving now, or who are frightened now because their loved ones were shot, maimed. They're hanging on by a thread. We need to pray for them in Michigan and send them positive energy. Let me see. All right. Now I think what I'll do is I'll answer this question. We will listen to Fornall's new piece, which is very cool, synth, and take a very short break, come back, read this story, speak to this story about, I think his name's Dr. Mannon, was Dr. Mannon, a great contributor to society. And who knows how many lives he's already touched, saving lives of the individuals he saved, children he saved, the families who, in their absolute angst and fear, watched their children have to go under some sort of surgical intervention. And he comes through and delivers that healthy child again. And he was murdered by an anti-white terrorist, and nothing is being said on the national level. And I don't know if anything is even being said in California about it. Horrific. So we have the question over here by Spartan asking what I think, or what's my view of the NJP and Patriot Front. Well, it kind of in my mind, and I'm not going to dwell on, I've talked about this at length. Oh, we have a financial gift of 5 library tokens over there on Odyssey. Let me lean over and see who's there. It was Who'da Thunk It, so thank you for that. And he adds here, quote, all hate is wrong, close quote, is implying that loving white people is somehow validating hate against non-white people. Despicable. It absolutely is. Very well written. You're 100% correct. But one of the things, Who'da Thunk It, this timed perfectly with the question about NJP and Patriot Front. A similarity. I see the two groups very differently. I think they're very different. But there's some profound similarities. And one of the biggest similarities is that from what I've heard from both of these entities is that non-white people have to be victimized for white people to end our victimization. For white people to have white well-being, non-white people have to suffer. That is what they promulgate. That's the belief system that they promulgate. They get that from the anti-white narrative. Inside the anti-white narrative, you're told relentlessly that if white people are proud, if white people defend themselves, if white people have well-being, then non-white people, ipso facto, suffer. It's a must. It follows. When I was in junior high school and I learned this, I put 2 and 2 together, 11, 12 years of age. I put 2 and 2 together and I said, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Because if we follow that to its logical consequence, then that means that it's moral to victimize white people in order to stop the victimization of non-white people. And if you pursue that long enough, you get biological white erasure. And if you pursue that at all, I have to live my whole life, and all of these other white kids and all the white adults have to live their lives being victimized. And both of these groups function inside the anti-white narrative. And inside the anti-white narrative, you are offered a choice to resist anti-whiteism, to combat anti-whiteism. There is an antagonistic role that you can adopt. You can look like the villain in their story. It's seductive. It's limiting. And individual sympathetic people to the well-being of white people, they start down these paths, and it gets uglier and uglier as they adopt uglier and uglier positions, conforming more and more to the villain role in the anti-white narrative. What you hear about in schools, what you see in the news and entertainment media, these people then make real. They instantiate it. They concretize it. They go out and that's why it's safe to say, more so with NJP here than Patriot Front, that they are LARPing as the villain in the anti-white narrative. They are live action role playing. There's a way to talk. There's a belief system. There is, and they are sternly control that space. And that's why those of us who don't behave that way are so viciously attacked with slander. So ultimately, there are undoubtedly good, heroic young men, and I don't know if young women are allowed to participate or not, that they find themselves in one of these groups, and they have good in their heart, and they want to sacrifice themselves for our people. They want to make a better world, and that's very noble. Where those young men and women, where their morality accords with mine, then I support them. The problem is that these structures require and necessarily lead you, those young men and women, in a direction that undermines any concern they have for the white race. That undermines, indeed, their very lives that they might like to live as productive, as law-abiding, as finding a partner and creating a healthy, happy marriage and relationship, rearing children up in love to stand up for our people. So both of these organizations, then, as a consequence, center, rather than the Western kind, they center specifically Jews, but other non-white races as sort of like sycophants, vassals. And they end up calling themselves by the names that certain groups of Jews or Jewish individuals will use for non-Jews. You can really see it's embarrassing. But neither one of these paths can lead to the reclamation of our destiny. There is no show of force. It's just a show of farce. The premise for both of them is erroneous, faulty, and has proven unsuccessful for numerous generations. And the people who get involved in similar organizations find themselves arrested. They find themselves going to jail. They find themselves kicked out of their families, kicked out of their friend groups. They find themselves thrown out of universities. And then they develop this sort of a bizarre notion that you're only doing something if you're hated by the world, if you're despised by the world. If you're not getting arrested and hated and despised, then you're not really doing something good for the white race. They might say Aryan or something like this. But fortunately, we had the leader of NJP, Warren Balog, recently say in a very simple sentence what we have come to realize, the real dividing line. And what he said was that being anti-Semitic is more important than being pro-white. That's why so many people from that organization and some from the Patriot Front so vehemently hate me, because I put the well-being of white people first, and I would never victimize any innocent people. Black, white, Hispanic, Jews. I would never victimize any innocent people. I would never condemn people on the basis of their birth, because we're condemned on the basis of our birth. So my opinion, in short, is that if you get involved, you're probably going to ruin your life. And these organizations, these entities aren't going anywhere. And these similar organizations and entities have come and gone over the decades. And after they're gone, we often find out that they were financed by really questionable people that weren't sort of in the movement before they show up. And there might be that kind of thing happening right now. There might be people showing up with money right now all of a sudden. And interesting timing for Donald Trump and his run for office, that suddenly there's more money showing up, and such ideas and groups. But if you're just asking me in a general sense, like, what do I think of them in general? That's one thing. But if you're thinking about participating, then I would ask you to reconsider. There are many more things that we could go on and on about, but ultimately you'll just ruin your life, and you won't do anything good for white people. Plain and simple. The great Fournel, who does infinitely good for white people, has put together We'll Have Our Home Again. I love it. We're going to watch it, and it's not long, and we'll be right back with these stories. Such an epic piece. A little audio malfunction there. That's the great Furnul. We'll have our home again by Pine Tree Riots. Synth version by Furnul. Big salute to that champion. This guy, it can just do almost anything. He's a ninja. He makes music. He does other things. It's amazing. I don't know what he can't do. Probably nothing. But we love him. We love his family. They are mega heroes in service to white well-being. And we are so very lucky to have him loving our people and wanting to be white positive. So we had RC the Realist as well, you all were talking about. Even, is it called Even More? We will check that out in just a bit. It looks like that's it. Yes. All right. Yeah, I think, who was it? Let's see. Mind Over Magic saying NJP is definitely on the Fed's radar. Same with Patriot Front. Yeah, remember, I was totally exonerated. I was totally proven right again and again when I said things about these different groups. You remember when I said, well, this particular group is on this list. I looked at it, and all of these folks went crazy. They absolutely crossed the white sympathetic sphere. Why? Because they like to see a bunch of young white men go out into the world and ruin their lives so that losers can giggle vicariously, live vicariously, and then giggle about their lives getting ruined. That's all it is. These people, they hate you. They hate you. When I was on PWR and I said to that other leader of NJP that I was concerned and I wanted to make sure that he's going to be taking care of the members, making sure that they don't get into trouble, etc. And you can go back and watch the show. There's like this deer in the headlights gaze, like, oh, why would that ever be a consideration? Why would that ever be a consideration? You can look through just year after year after year of these types of groups imitating the Third Reich. The NJP actually Sig Heils, and they yell Heil Hitler. And is that really what you want to be involved with? You want your employer to know that, your family and friends to know that? I mean, get real. Here's the bottom line. If you want to ruin your life and you want to do something that isn't going to harm Jewish people at all, it's not going to decrease the power of Jewish individuals at all, which is really their objective. It's not about the well-being of white people. That's just an excuse. If you want to do that, then you want to go to those groups. If you want to be a success in life, if you want to live bigger and bolder and brighter and be more effective than you ever could have been, then you will implement the Go Free strategy in your life, the Go Free method, and you will take it into every aspect and win your arguments, win your conversations, be the moral actor, persuade your family and friends. I mean, we have years and years and years of this piled up now. You can really see the big difference. You can really see it. And yet another reason why when we do something like have a major media institution change the picture that they're using for a particular crime that was committed on a school bus, they like shrug their shoulders, because how does that get you any closer to victimizing all Jewish people? Seriously, we are in such a mess. The white race is in such a mess. And when you want to push back against this mess, when you want to try to fight back against it inside the system, you really have two options. It's either be like this brain dead worshiper of Israel first, and then whatever your Western country is, and you gouge your eyes out so that you can't see race and these sorts of things, or you become this abject monster whom everybody has been taught that you have non-white dead babies buried on your property, and they're ready to kill you, and they're ready to imprison you, they're ready to look the other way so that law enforcement can do whatever needs to be done, judges can do whatever needs to be done to keep this threat. That's like it. And if you go outside of those two things, the brain dead ones with their eyes gouged out, they just ignore you, and there'll be no money there for you. And if you get into like the Republican Party, they will excise you with a rapidity that you can't even fathom. Just get rid of you. And if you go the other direction and try to talk to those people, well, some of them are the most underhanded, corrupt. They will tell every lie about you under the sun. Like, we have our RC, the realist. Well, there's another one out there that doesn't have the realist tacked on there, that I and Jared George, in the goodness of our heart, this guy would never talk. He would never do any interviews. Didn't want anybody to hear his voice because of his bad stuttering problem. And it's not really stuttering. It's the use of and to an unbelievable level, like can't talk. It's just, so we felt from, so we said, okay, we reached out to him and said, would you like to do an interview with us? No. And we held this guy's hand, finally found out, okay, he's got this problem. Well, and I can't even tell you, I can't even go on. It just goes on and on and on of how far, especially but also Jared George, bent over backwards for that guy, because we wanted to see if we had seen some tweets that he had made that were pretty good. And we wanted to see if he had something to say. We wanted to give an opportunity to speak to the community at large. And I ended up spending an ungodly number of hours in this pre-recorded video where he kept objecting to the interview because of how terrible he sounds. So I spent an ungodly number of hours taking out almost every single and Imagine doing that to an audio. Somebody who just tucks those things in everywhere. Just like long spans of word. Cut all that garbage out. And then he says, okay, that sounds good. We play it. He gets more attention. Count grows some more. And then come to find out that he's rabidly jealous of me and the Go Free method, and simultaneously not only rabidly jealous of me personally. So people who are having conversations with him, rabidly jealous of me personally. And there were a couple times where he said some things in social media and I just ignored it. And then, because those things the criticisms weren't enough, he started building an entire network of the most disgusting lies about me. And he's been building that now for years. No evidence whatsoever of anything he's ever claimed, and anything he spreads, he just tries to talk every single person into it. And still to this day, he's back on Twitter. He tweets about me on Gab, telling people to stay away from me because it's got to be this worship of Adolf Hitler and the Third Reich and victimizing all Jewish people. I mean, it's just, come on. Those end up being your options out there. So you really have to have a strong chin because of these kind of folks. And then you saw everything that just happened with the divorce. NJP saying they wouldn't appear with me ever. Just on and on. All right, we had White Will Bang Kitchen actually saying it's almost like they're jealous that you still have your YouTube channel because they all kicked off of YouTube, and they see that you're, and they say, I guess, that you're a shill. I think probably what you wanted to write there, because you still have yours. Yeah, it's almost like being intelligent and genuinely based in love, hope, and redemption, rather than hatred of other groups. It's almost like that works. It's almost like being a good person works. It's almost like loving works. Strange how that happens. Art Acrobat says, "Did you know that Nazis don't exist?" I what do you mean? What do you mean by that, brother? Oh, Elaine Sabatino says, "Join the NJP, but only if you look good in stripes or orange." So true. That is so true. Mind Over Magic says she likes the synth version. Lunder's saying it's working now. Cool. JK160, great to see you, says it's working. It was an audio snafu, but we fixed it. So let's see. I know we had some more show up. Spartan over here with an ice cream of cryptocurrency. God bless you. Thank you for that. And then also a lemon of cryptocurrency over there on D Live. Thank you. He says, Spartan says that he has seen that NJP, as a group, talks about Jews, but he says Patriot Front as a group doesn't. He says their rhetoric is more general. And Patriot Front, he says, is more organized as well. Says he doesn't plan to join either. Yeah, now is, he says, but breaks us is our lack of unity. We need to reach, he says we need to reach critical mass. Here's the thing. There's never going to be, thank you very much for your comments and the cryptocurrency. There's never going to be a big physical movement in the sense of like an NJP, or it will never work. It can't work. There are a lot of reasons why it can't work, but one of the trump cards there is that within that system, you have to out-finance the anti-white oligarchs. You're not going to be able to out-finance the anti-white oligarchs. End of conversation. So money has defeated all organizations, all vehicles, all religion. So you have to have another way. You have to have another way to defeat. Operating in your minds by way of the concepts and a different story outside the anti-white narrative. It's a very sophisticated way to push back and defeat anti-whiteism to recapture our destiny. So there won't be we've now finally have 1,000 members. I mean, the NJP is like cut out of whole cloth. imitation of what's the same group out in Germany? It's just like a total imitation. Even their logo is identical, just different letters. That group has something like 5,000. It's fluctuated, I think, 5 to maybe near 10,000 members in Germany. There is no there's not a moment where you get to so many members who are willing to march. Look at the size of the Proud Boy organization. That was very large, and it was very easy for the anti-whites and the federal government to take down the Proud Boys. It's very easy to splinter such things. It's very easy to out-finance. It's very easy when you control the laws and you can break the law to do whatever you want. So you've got to go another direction. What happens is, the big problem is, and I'm just going to move on. Thank you very much for the question, is that people look at pre-World War II Germany, where the conditions, they don't think about this, were completely different. And I mentioned the biggest condition in this stream, which was that population was looking at what was happening to everybody in Russia. And they were just willing to do anything to not have that happen to them. So they're not going to have that. They're not going to let that happen. And for one thing, but many reasons why it can't work. But they see like men marching in the streets, and they think, well, if we just get some men marching in the street, then we'll get more men marching in the street. Then we'll get more men, except the guys who are identified out in the streets today. And we could just go on and on. I can't. I mean, I could talk for days about the differences between then and now. But except that those guys are now all going to lose their jobs. And their wives might lose their jobs. And the government will come to talk with them about how are they raising their children? And there'll be threats to take their children away. And people will start peeling, just like the Proud Boys, they'll start peeling off and disappearing. It's completely impossible. It is, in fact, it's profoundly childish that people that there are people out there that think that course of action can work. And over the years, I have fluctuated between like feeling very sorry for them because they just can't see how bad it won't work, never could work. And then when they come to victimize me with lies and etc., and to destroy the work that I'm doing that does work, then it fluctuates the other direction. Don't like them so much then. But the individuals that are out there, I would like to pull all of them away. I would like to pull all of them away, the ones who are good in their hearts, and to have them use the Go Free method in their lives. They're not going to be getting arrested. They're not going to be losing their jobs. They're not going to be losing their wives. They're not going to be losing their children. They're not going to end up like so many of these people end up, the ends of their lives, ruined, hollow shells of themselves, and having done nothing for our people. Who'd have thunk it? Another 5 library tokens to the white negative antagonist in the anti-white narrative, saying, quote, being anti-Semitic is more important than being pro-white, close quote. 2 behaviors there. 1, making white people defined by an illness, making some individuals destructive. Yes. And he says, Huda Thungat says, a motive to conform to negative anti-white. Is that humanism? Yes. Yep. Yeah, his argument essentially is that you can't be for the well-being of your people if there is just this infinite evil. And you think about that argument. If the oppressor, the victimizer, has infinite power, then how are you going to defeat it? And the retort is, well, you need to name them all the time. Well, has naming them ever harmed powerful Jewish people? Never. It only ever harms the people doing the naming. And of course, you have the important issue here of are these, you're going to have, just like you have in every race of people, every group of people, you'll have some that are anti-white and some that are totally innocent, some that are trying to live their lives, some who care about white people as well. But they just want to get them all. They just want to harm them all. It's never done anything. So that's why I created Ye's Law. You can even take a billionaire and you can reduce him to poverty eventually. That's what happens with that strategy. And that's what they tell you to do. That's like the thing to tell you. And then, I got to say this before I move on. Did you all see this? Mark over on PWR, he interviewed a scumbag over there. And that scumbag did more to demonstrate that he is false opposition than anybody else could have ever done to help him to reveal that. Mark was in the conversation with this guy. And you'd think somebody who's a big namer, and it's all about Jewish people. It's just and nothing else. And anybody else who says anything, you've got to claim that they're having sex with children and all of these other things. This is what they do. Death threats. This is what they do. Interesting, isn't it? Interesting. And Mark's trying to talk with him, and he can't string two sentences together. He can hardly form one. So you're like, okay, while you're watching this, he's got like this bizarre look. He can hardly form a single sentence, but can't string two sentences together about the subject matter of that he purports to be in great command of the information. If everything is this one particular group of people, if you make that claim, then you obviously must have all that information. He had to refer to flyers that clearly other people had made for him to pass out, to piss people off and to scare people and to prove the villain in the anti-white narrative is real, because there he is on the street corner passing out a leaflet. He actually picked up leaflets. He at first called them a cheat sheet, and then he's like, well, we got these leaflets, and then he starts reading from the leaflets. He doesn't know shit about the big control by the group that he says is in control of everything. Can you believe this? I mean, this is the clown world is in these antags. That's what's clown world. That is clown world. Oh my God. All right, we got to ask, did you find a Valentine of your own? You got to find a Valentine of your own, because I already have Kate. I see you over there on D Live. You'll have to let us know. Mind Over Magic's mentioning Adam Green. Adam Green does a little bit of a different, he is an actual researcher. And this scumbag, this lowlife, goes after Adam Green too. Adam Green is a researcher of particular religious sects, and in I guess the Jews around the world. And he researches their prophecies and then researches the efforts of particular groups to which is not the totality of Jews. And he will tell you that. It's particular groups. I don't know a lot about any of that stuff. I'm not terribly interested. But professional researcher is a different thing than somebody who says, oh, it's all this group. But I really can't speak to it. Could you imagine? Like, even if somebody came to, maybe they kind of presented themselves as an arborist, and they're like, I could take care of all your trees. I'm going to make the trees, they're just going to be, I could take care of your trees. Yeah. Can you tell? Well, I got a dogwood, and what's going on with the dogwoods? And then the person's like, actually, you know what? I don't know a thing about trees. Let me get this flyer that somebody else wrote for me, and I will read to you. Oh yeah. It says here that we take care of dogwoods too. We'll trim the branches. I mean, would you hire that person? Would you believe shit coming out of their mouth? You couldn't have a greater example of false flag opposition than that. And this is the clown world of the Antag world. We got some important. We'll cover this because we're going to get out of here. Not too long. We'll cover this story. Terrible story. Driver mows down biking doctor before stabbing him to death on Pacific Coast Highway. And this was back at the beginning of the month. And so his wife is now living through her first Valentine's Day without him. His loved ones living through their first Valentine's Day without him. A very handsome guy, nice looking guy, obviously has big brain, steady hand. God bless him for every moment he lived and helped people. Murdered by an anti-white terrorist. An anti-white terrorist mowed down a doctor taking an afternoon bike ride before getting out of his Lexus. So, anti-white narrative, we learned that all non-white people are oppressed by white people and therefore they're all poor. I could never afford a Lexus. Gets out of his Lexus and stabs the doctor to death. Michael Mammon, 58, was riding in the bike lane on the Pacific Coast Highway. And this person, I think it's widely enough known that in his social media, he had rabidly anti-white statements. But please look into it for yourself. 58 was riding in the bike lane on the Pacific Coast Highway in Dana Point around 3 p.m. Wednesday when a driver slammed into him from behind, the Orange County Sheriff officer said. The crash launched Mammon into the Crown Valley Parkway intersection. Oh my God. How monstrous. So this vicious anti-white filth, waste, driving down the road deciding that he's going to murder a white person because of how anti-white he is, picks this savior known for saving lives at the hospital he worked at, picks this savior to murder, first hitting him with his automobile, launching him from his bicycle into the intersection. The bicycle, of course, is crushed. Van Roy Evans Smith was the anti-white bastard terrorist name, 39, very nearly the age of the shooter in Michigan. Got out of his white Lexus brandishing a knife and began assaulting Mammon, an emergency room doctor at Providence Mission Hospital in Laguna Beach, police said. Providence Mission Hospital, Laguna Beach. Witnesses said Smith was also holding a BB gun as he approached the injured Mammon before he began stabbing him. Yeah, and there's this piece of shit's beautiful car that he got with his quota salary so that they could victimize white people, and then they needed somebody to benefit from that victimization. And they found it in this Smith guy. Collateral beneficiary, Van Roy. So he's making the big money. He has the nice car. Anti-white filth. Living large because of anti-whiteism. And then he goes out and targets this heroic gentleman. It says here, an emergency room doctor. Was he also a pediatrician, or was he just a surgeon in the emergency room? By the time law enforcement arrived, bystanders had leaped into action and detained Smith. He was booked on suspicion of murder. I think he would be dead if I had probably would have died if somebody like me had been there. I don't think I would just hold him in a nice way after watching him run over someone and then jump out of the car and start stabbing that person. The knife he allegedly wielded was found at the scene. Mammon, who was lying on the highway suffering from severe injuries, of course, hammered with a vehicle. and stabbed repeatedly, taken to the hospital. Police said the men appear to know each other. As of right now, we currently don't truly understand the why. Bullshit. It's anti-white terrorism. It's just like they do in our once great country of South Africa. Well, this robbery became a ritualistic torture and rape scene. We're not exactly sure why. It's just that in all of our universities, in all of our entertainment, in all of our government, we demonize white people, we belittle them, and we devalue their lives. We dehumanize them, and we tell everybody that any non-white person and every white person who doesn't identify on the larger scale with the white race, we tell all of them that all of their hardships are white people's fault, and they're looking for an excuse anyhow. And that would have nothing to do with them murdering and ritualistically raping white people. We're just unsure about how these kinds of things might be happening. We're a bit perplexed. Investigators are keeping all options open to check those boxes. Really? You didn't just like pull up his social media and say, wow, this guy's like wildly anti-white on his social media. Maybe that has something to do with it. You know what? They did. They did look at his social media. He could have been pulled away from there with him saying, I want to kill all white people. He could have been saying that. That doesn't fit the anti-white narrative. They want to make sure they don't leave anything uncovered. You know, if he had said that he wants to kill all white people at the scene, then they would just totally kill this story. If the police officers couldn't get around answering that question, they would just kill the story. And for us, we want to know, what about his family? What about his loved ones? What about the friends at work? What about the families of the people he saved? So what are your thoughts? Do you know anything else about this story and Dr. Mammon and what happened to him? Zoe says she has some Valentines, but she's feeling kind of sick today. So she didn't go out. Don't go out. It's just expensive anyhow. And everybody's going out to restaurants and bars, and who wants to be in the midst of that? We have Slots here with a $3 financial gift. God bless you, brother. Over here on Entropy. $3 says we need white positive resilience. Like that hero doctor having the resilience to save lives. We need a commensurate, admirable resilience in loving our people. What a beautiful thing to write. What an absolutely beautiful thing to write. Especially on this day. God bless you, Slots. That's wonderful. Valentine's Day, we're remembering with love our brothers and sisters who have, in both of these anti-white terror attacks, suffered loss of life, loss of peace of mind for the rest of their lives, loss of maybe mobility. Who knows how else they're maimed by, up in Michigan, by the bullets that tore through their bodies. So our thoughts and prayers are with them all, and with the family of Dr. Mammon and those whom he saved over the years. This is the productive Western civilization, the wholesome, productive, civil, law-abiding civilization that we should have. That's who these people are. But as we are white erased, the country becomes an increasingly violent place. And these attacks are increasingly, inarguably, to murder, rape, and maim Western kind and leave nothing of us. You cannot resist them with violence. You cannot build a political party You're not going to vote your way out of it. There is one strategy that changes people where they are, that can reach those they love. And it's the dialectics and lexicon contained in the Go Free method. It's legal. It's moral. You won't be kicked out of your family or your job. You need to get started so that we can prevent crimes like this, terror attacks like this, anti-white terror attacks. And that we, as Lotz is saying here, can honor with the same resilience that Dr. Mammon showed in saving lives. Thank you so much for that, Slots. Let me see what you all are saying. We got one more love song to play. I guess that's what we will wrap up on. So my Valentine got hit on today. Helios Abbott is here. Biospiritual Harmony is here. And she was like, no thanks. Pants is here. Great to see you. The Great Lunder says, the good doctor's name is but another upon the anti-white memorial monument to be erected after we recapture our destiny. He sadly won't be the last. Well written, good sir. Well written. Do you think it will be possible, says Mind Over Magic, for us to have our own movie industry so that way our story will always be told in every film? Yes, but don't look for the outcome, and that's what that would be, the outcome of the work that we're doing. That's one of the many outcomes that will come of this. So one of the errors that people make, the leadership, is they'll say, we need our own film industry. And I know there have been several times one really big push, and the guy wasn't a bad guy. He was a real director too, from Hollywood, and he was sick of Hollywood, and he was actually like getting pushed out, but he had contacts, and so there was like oh my gosh, this guy, he could actually start making movies if we made movies that could be profitable. This was years back. I'm not going to say his name. And he and his wife they were nice people. And then all of this tons of money was raised for him to make these movies. And there were a lot of ideas for movies. And then eventually he had this like really ridiculous kind of a like mealy-mouthed conservative type of idea for a movie. And he's like, okay, that's what I'll make. And so all this money went to that. And then he supposedly got started, and then it kind of just all fell apart. And I don't know if any investors got their money back, or if he just walked away with the money. And it was one of these just, I'm still trying to raise money to work on it kind of a things. Like I said, I don't think he was like a con man. I don't think he was there to raise a bunch of money and walk off with it. I think it was for real. But when you don't have a coherent story that you are in, which we do here, but the white race doesn't have a coherent story they're in. And when they're in the anti-white narrative. And when you are resisting anti-whites inside the anti-white narrative, your story is of the villain, and they get together in failed vehicles and all of this other nonsense and immorality to victimize innocent as well as folks who might be harming whites. You can't have the outcomes of society, right? Like a major motion picture producing industry is an outcome of a functioning society. And what is a society? A society is a group of people, and this can take several iterations. And what we saw here in the United States, of course, was the dissolving of the connective tissue, the bonds of the norms and codes, etc., of Western kind that Hollywood was built on top of. If it had been just a giant incoherent mess, it would not have looked or could not have looked like it ended up looking. But so there have been these endeavors. Well, we need our own filming and we need our own television. We need our own banking system. We need our own police force. We need our own. You can't make that out of anarchic notions of folks who are inside somebody else's story, the anti-white narrative. It can't come of it. You can waste a lot of money on these things. You can tie people up with their time and efforts and endeavors for their whole lives on these things, and it won't work. It can't work. But if you get to people with a new moral imperative and you get to them where they are and it spreads outside of well beyond your ability to contain it, like you can think about this for a minute. You can think about how, and it's so funny. You hear these antag leaders and they'll say, different ones over the years, I can see exactly how this should work. I can see in my mind exactly how it should work. It would just be this and that and this and that. If you can contain in your head how it's going to go from A to Z, it's a total fallacy. Total fallacy. There is no containing in the mind of anyone, no matter how high their IQ, human dynamism, human ingenuity, the interplay of human dynamism. You just cannot. It is foolishness to the nth degree. It is childishness to the nth degree. So we have the thing that can grow beyond our thinking, go beyond our conception, and yield results in the form of something like this. You'll suddenly say, as this grows, and if we're successful, and I believe we will be, you'll suddenly have people somewhere who will get together. They might not have even any of these people ever thought about being involved in explicit white sympathy. But now, armed with a new moral imperative, the concepts that they don't know where they came from, but in their training, abilities, connections, money, they are movie or television producers, or can be. And they start coming together, and suddenly you have some place where they begin producing, say, like little mini series. It will be because of us. And then, of course, the NJPs and of the world and all of these kind of people, and the clown that's obviously false flag opposition, they'll say, well, Jason and that white well-being community didn't do anything. Fernald didn't do anything. Slaughts didn't do anything. They'll just go down the list. Franklin didn't do anything. They didn't do that. That just happened. When it will be precisely because of what we are doing, and could not have happened another way. Montana Kid is here. All right, I think, wow, look at this. A Valentine gift from a great Valentine of a gentleman. No White Gill clips showing up. 50 white well-being dollars from this champion. Oh my God. You look at the money that Clips financially gets, and it's impressive, but it is dwarfed by all of the other time that this guy puts in, making memes, making clips, promulgating all of it for white well-being. Let's get a lot of 07s, raucous emojis. Let's get no white Gill clips, some red hearts for Valentine's Day, if you can find them in there. 50 Let's love Western kind dollars. And he says, for your time tonight, thank you. Well, thank you. Oh, God dang, I really appreciate that. That's a gentleman. It's a gentleman and a scholar right there. He's like, well, Jason's putting in the time tonight. I'm going to thank you. I appreciate it. That is a really wonderful financial gift, brother. We love you. Valentine's Day. The great No White Gill Clips. And thank you all for celebrating that champion. All right. I'm going to take a quick look to see if you all have said anything else. Then I think we're going to play a love song by our very own RC the Realist. And he absolutely is. All right, looks like we're blank over there. We didn't miss anybody. We didn't miss anybody here. Did my Valentine show up today? Or no? Was she a no-show? Mike is here. Who else is here late? All right. Well, folks, for those of you who are here now, you're lucky because you all get to be let in on a little secret. That is that we have a very interesting interview coming up this Thursday. Don't be unable to watch because we have a very interesting guest. We're going to be having a very interesting conversation. That's this Thursday. This coming Thursday. Yes, I'll be back. And then there's another very exciting interview being set up. Maybe for Sunday. Maybe on Sunday, we'll see. But certainly if not Sunday, then I think we'll shoot for the following week. But much, much love to all of you. Big love on Valentine's. Big love on Valentine's Day. To the totality of Westmen around the world. You're never alone. We are there with you. If you feel like you're alone, this is the place to be. You've come to the right place. And we welcome everybody of all immutable characteristics to join us in this love to combat anti-whiteism, the great evil of our age, destroying everything we care about, and therefore everything that you need to live in a world that you want to be a part of. So we're happy to have you here as well. So big love. Happy Valentine's Day. And let's check out, I'm listening for the first time, the RC Realist, Valentine's Piece, Even More.
You're my bottle of wine, you get better with time. I think it's clear that I'm happy you're mine. It's crazy how all we can do is grow. No need to ask, cause I'm letting you know. I just fall for your harder each and every day. Butterflies intensify, they never went away. Love only grows, what more can I say to you? Does my heart still skip a beat? Can my knees still get weak? Do I still float when you're with me? Do I still feed for your kiss? And my hands on your hips? My response is that's for sure. And even more. My favorite thing to look forward to each day is the end of it, cause next to you I lay. Always am excited to see you. Your love was a hit, but even better is to see it prove. Always a pleasure to see what is next. I did something right in life cause I'm with the best. If you ever wonder, I hope this song can express it. Listen to me now. Does my heart still skip a beat? Can my knees still get weak? Do I still float when you're with me? Do I still feel for your kiss and my hands on your hips? My response is that's for sure, and even more, and even more. Does my heart still skip a beat? Can my knees still get weak? Are you the most beautiful woman I've seen? Still. Does my heart still skip a beat? Can my knees still get weak? Do I still float when you're with me? Do I still feel for your kiss and my hands on your hips? My response is that's for sure, and even more, and even more.